With regards to our projections for the franchise tax, are the projections greater now than we projected, let's say, a year ago when we met, or are the numbers about the same?
About the same.
And why would we not be receiving a greater amount from the franchise tax with all of the other economic indicators being more positive?
Well, one would expect that. And what we've seen so far is that the franchise tax does not appear to be moving as one would quite expect with the economy. Last year, fiscal 11, I would have expected it to come back more strongly, and in fact, it didn't. It improved only minimally.
Can you explain that? The sales tax are up, the severance tax, everything else is increasing. All the economic indicators are improving. Why is it that the franchise tax, the mortgage tax, is remaining pretty much stagnant?
I don't have an answer for you this morning.
But it doesn't seem to make economic or business sense to me.
I would have expected it last year to come back more strongly than it did, and however, it increased only minimally.
Okay. And again, a lot of the what we have based, for example, the property tax relief that we have given school money's going to our schools. All of that has been, in part, is heavily weighed on the franchise tax performing at a greater level, and especially performing at a greater level when economically things are going better. But to the extent the franchise tax remains stagnant, then it becomes a pull on the property tax relief as well as on the money that we're giving to our school districts. Would that not be a fair assessment?
I think it's a fair thing to say that as compared to the original fiscal note, that the amount of revenue we're getting from the franchise tax is not at that level.
Is the Comptroller's Office doing an in-depth review to provide us with more of a detailed explanation as to what needs to take place there?
I'm not aware, but I can certainly get something for you on that.
It does appear while we're in this interim that we need to know more what's happening there. Otherwise, it's not making any sense. With respect to the rainy day fund, when we met here a year ago, what were the projections that would be in the rainy day fund at the end of this biennium?
At that time, I'm not certain.
Okay, because I thought the projection was that after we had minus everything out, it was still going to be about $7 billion in the.
I think it's fairly close. We did increase the amount of revenue going into the oil tax because of prices, but I believe that the estimate you're referring to was quite close to the one that you have with you today, which is 7.3. Right,
but the question is, with the numbers being greater, with more money from oil and gas, all the indicators are moving in a more positive direction than we were able to see when we were here a year ago. Is it not fair to say that there's more money, that more money will be in the rainy day fund at the end of this biennium than what we had indicated when we met a year ago?
It's certainly possible.
But I thought then, when we met a year ago, we were saying that based on the budget that we passed, that the rainy day fund would have about $7 billion in it. It still appears as though that's the same number that we're using today in light of the more positive indicators. That's not adding up to me. Can you explain that to me?
The oil and gas estimates haven't changed all that much from the point in time back during the session. Certainly, right now today, the price of oil is ahead of where we thought it would be, which was about in the upper $80 range. When I came over here this morning, it was 105.
Right, it's 105. It's 105 today. With all indications being that it is increasing, certainly beyond what we thought a year ago. Still, let me just push you, because John, a year ago, the number that we said it was going to be $7 billion in the rainy day fund, when things were not as positive. Now, a year later, we're still saying $7 billion. Are we intentionally being overly conservative in our numbers?
I don't believe so.
And the reason why I'm saying this is because right now we got a lot of schools that are hurting. okay? And there are many people like me, let me not say many, let me just say people like myself who believe that we need to have a special session to address the public school finance situation. And so if there's going to be more money in the rainy day fund than what we had anticipated a year ago, then we need to know what those numbers are in a more realistic fashion. And $7 billion is the same number that we was talking about a year ago. Logic would say to me that our number, that this number ought to be larger on this sheet of paper than what's appearing.
A couple of thoughts. One thought is that the oil and gas industry is by its very nature a highly volatile industry, and the prices for these products are as well. Yes, oil is $105 today. It could be $85 within 2 weeks. The second thing is that equally important to oil to the state of Texas is natural gas. Natural gas is at $2.60 per 1,000 cubic feet. It's very low. Now, in the next month or two, we're going to start to see the impact on our revenues of this very low price.
What was the gas when we met last time? Wasn't it still somewhere between $2.25 or $2.50?
Oh, no, sir. It was probably more in the $4 range. It's been sinking consistently.
Okay. If I will, Mr. If you could take, let's say, if you could take the price of oil, a barrel of oil, for example, at $95 a barrel, and extrapolate that out, and just provide me what the numbers would be in the rainy day fund if those numbers remain the same. If we average it out at about $90 to $95 a barrel, and then then tell me what the numbers are.
I could certainly do that with the proviso that that's the sort of thing that probably we won't see, but I would be happy to do that. And
at the end of this, I guess the last year in this biennium, did we end up with a surplus balance?
Pardon me?
Did we end up with a balance?
Yes, we did.
And what was that balance?
$1.1 billion.
$1.1 billion.
Yes, sir.
From the last year, which
yes,
is left over after we covered the budget. Okay? And that's 1.1. Do you have any idea, does the Comptroller Office have any idea what our balance may be at the end of this year that we're in?
At the end of this year that we're in right now, it may well be a negative balance.
And that's based on?
That's based on the revenues coming in as they are, and the way the legislature appropriated the money for 12 and 13. I'm getting into John's area here, but it's more loaded in spending into 12 and lighter in 13.
Okay, is that based on, which is Health and Human Services? Which is your Article, John? Is that 2? Is that based on what we did in Article 2?
Yes.
The fact that we underfunded the Medicaid situation by roughly $5 billion?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And also a deferral in public ed that comes out of 13.
Okay. But we knew what we did there. The point that I'm trying to make is right now we've got a number of school districts right here that are hurting. And to the extent that's, let's say, $1.something billion that's remaining after this first year, I do think we need to consider how we're going to address the needs of these school kids in this biennium, because those who are in the 8th grade are not only going to be in the 8th grade once, our hope. Okay? Our hope is they're going to only be in the 8th grade once. And they can't wait until we come back in January of 2013. But I would simply push you, John, in the Comptroller's office to provide us with more real-time information and to kind of drill down on the numbers that we have in based of the improved situation, the financial situation that we are facing, in order for us to be able to make some real-time decisions right now. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
John O'Brien, did you have something further on the rainy day?
Yes, sir. For the record, my name is John O'Brien, Director of the Legislative Budget Board. Remember, Mr. Turner, also that you appropriated $3.2 billion out of the rainy day fund, and that had to come out of that estimate in the BRE along with the interest that was projected to be earned. That's one of the reasons that the rainy day fund's not as high as you expect it to be.
Right, but I thought, John, that even after we appropriated the 3.2 out of the rainy day fund, we still, because we discussed this over and over again, I still thought the balance at the end of this biennium would still be somewhere around 7. That was my understanding. I could be wrong.
I kind of recall 6.
6. I think you're right. You're right. It was going to be 6. And so in view of what's happening now, I just kind of want to get a real figure based on the improved economic situation as to where we're going to be at the end of this biennium, because I think there are some decisions that we may not shouldn't wait until we come back in January to address them. Some of these decisions, in my view, may need to be addressed right now, sooner rather than later. Thanks.